Hello, this is Ruben. I'm here to present this presentation on the Standard Oil Company. So let's begin. So the Standard Oil Company was initially started after the Civil War ended in 1870. So during the Civil War, the federal government inflated the price of oil, which allowed the profit margins of oil to be much higher. So there was a niche in the market to be able to sell oil, and not just crude oil, but also refined oil. So the Second Industrial Revolution demanded new forms of fuel, which included oil, due to because of the the amount of manufacturing there was. So this increased the upsurge in demand for oil, which coincided with a massive increase in the production of oil as well after the Civil War and during the 1870s. So the person who started the company, John D. Rockefeller, he found a niche in the market, which is refined oil. And so one of the main groups of people that were impacted by the monopolization that occurred because of the Standard Oil Company were oil refineries. So just as an example, in Cleveland during the 1870s, 22 of the 26 oil refineries were bought out after the Standard Oil Company just completely eliminated the competition there. This was a large part because of the rebates that the train companies gave them, which allowed them to make a huge profit since they didn't have to pay as much per barrel of oil. Another group that was eventually affected was the Standard Oil Company, because that was affected by the Standard Oil Company was the oil producers, as Rockefeller was a big proponent of vertical integration. So he put money and research into developing good refined fuel from quote-unquote bad oil, which was to figure out how to get rid of the impurities in that bad oil. And then he would also buy some of the oil producers. And then one person who was affected not directly by the Standard Oil Company, but but indirectly, since she wrote about it, was Ida Tarbell, who wrote the famous book called The History of the Standard Oil Company. So the perspective of the Standard Oil Company. So supporters of the Standard Oil Company were obviously John D. Rockefeller and his fellow board of directors, and also the railroad companies. So the board of directors believed that they could make the oil industry as efficient as possible, and this was in large part because at the very start, oil producers and refiners were not very efficient. They could still make a lot of money, but they were just not very efficient. So he felt that for the American economy, it would be much better for it to be run by one company that does it extremely efficiently. And the railroad companies felt that if they allowed the Standard Oil Company to get the rebates, they can make a large amount of money since the Standard Oil Company run so many barrels of oil on their trains. Those who were against it were reform politicians and muckrakers. They felt that they were being unfair since they're limiting competition and unfairly rising prices, like inflating prices, since they're the only ones in the market. So the purpose of the Standard Oil Company was to consolidate and control the entirety of the oil industry, and they had accomplished this for multiple decades until the eventual dissolution in 1911 by the Sherman Antitrust Act. This was also a very good example of vertical integration, which you didn't see necessarily until that point very often, and now you can see it, with one good example being like Tyson. So the Standard Oil Company also led to the development of the Sherman Antitrust Act and following antitrust acts in the future, because of companies, it's an overbearing influence that it had, and now a lot of the successors of, after the breakup of the Standard Oil Company, are many oil companies today that are successors of it, such as like Exxon Mobil, Chevron, things like that. So you can still see the influence of Standard Oil Company to this day. So thanks for watching.